The 1934 World Cup was the second edition of the FIFA World Cup. It is widely considered one of the most controversial in the tournament's history. But why? Well, that is what we'll explore in today's video, as we go over the story of 1934 Mussolini's World Cup. A huge reason for the controversy is the decision on who would host the tournament. There were several applicants to host the World Cup. The top two favourites were Sweden and Italy. The decision process of selecting the hosts was incredibly long-winded. It took 8 separate meetings to make a final choice. This included a Congress meeting in 1932 in Stockholm that included all 60 FIFA delegates. The decision was made by the FIFA Executive Committee with no vote from the members. Italy was selected. History has looked poorly on this choice because Italy was openly under the fascist dictator regime of Benito Mussolini. The infamous dictator took the tournament as an opportunity to showcase fascism and Italian superiority. To this day, there is speculation of bribery and intimidation being key factors in Italy winning the bid. As early as 1930, the secretary for the Italian FA, Giovanni Mauro, led an informal lobbying campaign. He assured FIFA that the Italian government would underwrite any financial losses resulting from the World Cup. Achille Starace, the secretary of the fascist government, would become the face of the competition. He is the mastermind behind the propaganda campaign during the tournament. Italians were hit with an onslaught of 300,000 posters, stamps with images of the World Cup, and even a new cigarette brand, Campionato del Mondo, or World Championship. The 1934 World Cup was the first time teams had to qualify. 36 teams decided to enter the competition, but only 16 would qualify. Italy is unique in being the only hosts who ever needed to qualify for the main tournament. There was more controversy at this stage because the reigning champions Uruguay refused to enter. They had hosted the 1930 edition and took it as a personal insult that most European teams chose not to enter. Peru and Chile would also withdraw in support of Uruguay. What about England and the home nations? They once again refused to enter. They were still amid a self-imposed exile from FIFA. This is despite both England and Scotland being offered direct qualification into the tournament. There was a strong element of arrogance and hubris in the FA's decision not to participate. FA member Charles Sutcliffe referred to the World Cup as a joke and remarked that the national associations of England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland have quite enough to do in their own international championship, which seems to me a far better world championship than the one to be staged in Rome. This was the era when the home nations would play a tournament against each other on an annual basis. Italy and Mussolini were not concerned by top nations not entering the tournament. The sole purpose of their hosting the World Cup was to win and showcase Italian superiority. Therefore, this only increased their chances. FIFA organised the qualification by splitting the remaining 32 teams into 12 groups based on location. There were 8 groups in Europe with 12 places available among the 21 teams. 3 groups in the Americas with 3 places among the 8 nations. The final group was for Asia and Africa with just 1 place from the 3 entrants. The qualification process was quite disorganised as multiple teams withdrew during the European qualification process. Estonia, Lithuania, Bulgaria and Greece all declined to play their remaining games once qualification became unlikely or impossible. It was a similar story of instability in the American qualification process. Brazil and Argentina both qualified automatically because their opponents Peru and Chile respectively withdrew before a single ball was kicked. Due to the late entry of the USA, they had a one-off qualification match with Mexico in Rome just 3 days before the tournament started. In the Africa and Asia qualification process, Egypt would beat out Palestine, the British Mandate, and Turkey, who withdrew to qualify. Only 6 of the final 16 teams had played in the 1930 World Cup. Before moving on to the main tournament, I would appreciate any likes, subscribers, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you. The World Cup took place between May 27th to the 10th of June 1934. It took place across 8 cities and stadiums. Another controversial aspect was the decision to scrap the group stage in favour of a straight knockout tournament. If a match was tied after 90 minutes, 30 minutes of extra time would be played. If the scores were still level, a replay would occur the next day. The concept of the penalty shootout had not yet been devised. The knockout nature meant that 8 teams would travel across the globe to Italy just to play one round of football. Especially arduous, as the journey for a lot of teams was via a multiple-week boat journey. This was the only time a straight knockout format was used in World Cup history. 8-seeded teams were kept apart in the first round: Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary. All 8 first-round matches kicked off simultaneously. This was to further enhance the Italian celebration, as all 8 cities had carefully been chosen to celebrate fascist ideals. For the first time, fans from all participating nations were able to send fans to support their team. Mussolini wanted them to see how happy Italians were under fascism. He wanted to show off how well organized the tournament was. This was a big reason why all 8 games were played at the same time. Hosts and favourites Italy crushed the USA 7-1 in Rome. By all accounts, the scoreline could have been a lot worse. The New York Times wrote, "Only the goaltending of Julius Julian of Chicago kept the score as low as it was. Angelo Schiavio was the main star for Italy. He scored a hat-trick, including a strike from over 30 yards out." Incredibly, for the second straight World Cup, Brazil was dumped out in the first round. They were surprised by Spain, who raced into a 3-0 lead in the first half. Brazil would fight back strongly in the second half. They pulled a goal back via 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿, but a disallowed goal and a missed penalty would break their spirit as they lost 3-1 in Genoa. Hungary and Egypt would face off in Naples. Hungary started strongly and would lead 2-0, but Egypt would valiantly fight back and level the scores before half-time. Hungary would control the game in the second half to win 4-2. The seeded Netherlands faced Switzerland in the San Siro, Milan. The Swiss would score an early goal and would take the lead on 3 separate occasions as they stunned the Dutch 3-2. Czechoslovakia faced Romania in Trieste. Romania took a surprise early lead after 11 minutes, but the Czechs would turn it around to win 2-1. The 1930 finalist Argentina faced Sweden in Bologna. Argentina had a tumultuous build-up. Due to internal disputes, their squad did not feature anybody from the 1930 World Cup. They would end up with an amateur squad. Despite this, Argentina was still very good when attacking. They would take a 1-0 and then a 2-1 lead. But unfortunately, they were weak defensively. Sweden would score twice before the end and win 3-2. Austria versus France was played in Turin. It would be the first game to go into extra time. The game was 1-1 after 90 minutes. In an entertaining extra time, Austria would go 3-1 up before surviving a late rally from France to win the game 3-2. Germany versus Belgium took place in Florence. The Germans would prove to be the far more ruthless side as they would win a competitive game 5-2 thanks to a hat-trick from 𝐬𝐿. Just like the first round, all 4 quarter-final matches were played at the same time on the 31st of May. In a grudge match, Austria and Hungary battled in a tough physical match in Bologna. Neither side was able to truly showcase their technical abilities as the game was rife with fouls. Austria would take a 2-0 lead by the 51st minute. Hungary would pull one back via a penalty in the 60th minute. The match hung in the balance until Hungary lost 2 players. Imre Marcos was sent off and István Avar was injured. Austria cruised to victory 2-1. Hosts Italy would face Spain in Florence in one of the most controversial ties in World Cup history. It was marred by brutal play from both sides and several poor refereeing decisions. Specifically, it was how Italian players would challenge Spanish goalkeeper Ricardo Zamora. Spain took the lead in the 30th minute before Italy equalised just before half-time. The Italian goal was contentious, as the Spanish goalkeeper looked to have been blocked off when trying to secure a rebound leading to the goal. The game would end 1-1 after extra time. A replay was required. It would be played the next day on the 1st of June. Due to all the injuries and exhaustion from the day before, Italy and Spain were forced to make 4 and 7 changes respectively. The most pivotal change was when Spanish goalkeeper Zamora was forced to give way to uncapped José Nogués. Unfortunately, the replay was also stained by refereeing decisions. Within 5 minutes, Spaniard Christian Bosch was hacked down in the penalty box. Not only was the penalty not awarded, Bosch was injured as a result. There were no substitutions allowed, so Spain was forced to play with 10 men. Italy took the lead after 11 minutes through Giuseppe Meazza. In the second half, more controversy followed. Spain had 2 goals disallowed, one for an offside and the other for a foul. Both were highly contentious decisions. Italy would hold on to win 1-0. French sports daily 𝐼𝐸 reported, "The referee conducted the operations with such casualness that he frequently appeared to be Italy's 12th man." In the aftermath of the tournament, Swiss referee 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐿 was suspended. Germany faced off with Sweden in the San Siro, Milan. Terrible rain negatively impacted the game. There were no goals in the first half. The quality of the game improved in the second half as the rain eased up. Sven Andersson was forced off with a head injury. Karl Holman would score twice for the Germans in 3 minutes versus the 10 men of Sweden. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 would pull one back for Sweden late on, but Germany would progress with a 2-1 win. Czechoslovakia and Switzerland would face off in Turin. In a highly entertaining encounter, both teams would trade the lead. It was a game of the Swiss dominating possession versus the counter-attacking of the Czechs. Czechoslovakia would win 3-2. Similarly to the previous rounds, both semi-finals were played at the same time on the 3rd of June. Italy versus Austria was played in the San Siro, Milan. In another instance of the tournament favouring Italy, even the weather decided to play a part. A torrential downpour significantly hampered the Austrians' passing game. The weather suited the Italians, who were able to utilise their more defensive and varied attack. Italy took a 1-0 lead in the 19th minute. In the second half, despite much pressure from the Austrian attack, Italian goalkeeper Gianpiero Combi managed to keep them at bay. Italy would hold on to win 1-0. Czechoslovakia versus Germany took place in Rome. This semi-final was another clash of styles. The Czechs were the more technical team, whilst the Germans were the more physical side. The Czechs' more finesse and attacking prowess would prevail, as 𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 would score a hat-trick to score a 3-1 win over Germany. The 1934 World Cup was the first to feature a now traditional third-place playoff. Both Germany and Austria changed their usual lineups to give some rest to their starters. The game was played in Naples. Austria was forced to borrow the blue shirts of Napoli, as both teams traditionally wore white shirts. The Germans scored the fastest goal of the tournament after just 25 seconds, as they won 3-2 to secure third place. The final between Italy and Czechoslovakia was played on the 10th of June in Rome. 55,000 were in attendance. The game was refereed by Swede Ivan Eklund, who at 28 is still the youngest ref in World Cup final history. On the day of the final, the Czechs made it official that they would be allied with the Soviet Union. This angered Mussolini, who saw the communists as a natural enemy to fascism. All the high-ranking members of the fascist regime, including Mussolini himself, attended the final, expecting an Italian victory. There were even members from the fascist Nazi Germany in attendance. The match itself was a tight and physical affair. The game remained goalless until the 71st minute, when Antonín Puč scored to give the Czechs a shock lead. Mussolini's celebration was under threat until the 81st minute, when Italy equalised. This would become the first final to ever go into extra time. Italian legend Angelo Schiavio would score the winning goal in the 95th minute to secure Italy's first ever World Cup win. After the final, there was a ceremony where the fascist anthem 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐻 was played, and Italy was presented with 2 trophies. One was the actual World Cup trophy, the 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐫𝐿. The second was a trophy specially commissioned by Mussolini, which was 6 times larger than the 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻. Notable stats from the tournament include 70 goals were scored in just 17 games, giving an astonishing average of 4.12 per match. Italy were top scorers, with 12 goals in 5 games. They conceded only 3 goals. Czech 𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 finished as the Golden Boot winner with 5 goals from 4 games. There is a reported total of 363,000 who attended the matches, giving an average of 21,353 per game. Only one of the stadiums had a capacity of less than 28,000. The average was negatively impacted by all the games being played simultaneously in each round. Mission accomplished. Mussolini had proven Italy was the best football team in the world, although the legitimacy of the win has question marks to this day. Were the referees influenced? There has been speculation that Mussolini met with referees for dinner before the tournament even started. We may never know. Regardless, 1934 was undoubtedly one of the most controversial World Cups ever. Thank you for watching. My next video will be on the 1938 World Cup. So please do hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to learn more about the history of the World Cup.